I'd like to welcome you to this tutorial on the basic functions of Treatment Studio. Treatment Studio software is created exclusively for iCat systems and provides tools for implants, abutment placements, restorations, surgical procedures, endodontics, orthodontics, TMJ, and airway assessment, all in a single software package. The objective of this training video is to focus on the basic information needed to get started with the Treatment Studio software. Our agenda will start by exploring the basic image process tools like zoom, pan, brightness, and contrast. You will see how to scroll through the data, reorient the images, and how to use the distance measurement tools. You'll also learn how to create 3D and cross-sectional images. Next, we will move to volume rendering presets and the use of clipping and cutting tools and measuring images in a 3D environment. After the images are created, we will learn how to save them to gallery, save them outside of the software to formats such as JPEG, and to attach images to your email client. When the software opens, you will be by default in the Art Section View tab. The basic layout of this screen includes different regions. The largest of these regions is the rendering window. The rendering window is where patient images are displayed. This window can be customized by using the toolbar, the view tabs, the view control, and/or the menu bar. The toolbar contains tools which can be accessed to perform certain functions on patient images. Sets of tools are associated with a specific view tab. The view tab section allows you to perform specific tasks or look at specific subjects. The view control is the region where the patient images can be manipulated and controlled. The view control is associated with a specific view tab. The last region is the menu bar. This area is generally used before or after your case work. It allows you to perform application operations such as open, save, close, printing, capture, personalization, etc. So to summarize, what you see in the Rendering Window tab will change based on what is selected or manipulated with any of the other segments. Now let's begin with our discovery of the basic functions of Treatment Studio. As I said earlier, when Treatment Studio opens, it will display the Art Section tab. For the purposes of this training video, we will begin with the Section tab. On this screen, we see three orthogonal planes of a reconstructed volumetric data set. Each of these orthogonal planes has multiple thin slice sections for tomographic images. In the top left window, we see the Axial View. Our view of the patient is looking up through from the bottom of the patient's head. The orientation of the patient is shown on the screen with the patient's right side on the left-hand side of the image and the patient's left side on the right side of the image. We'll see on the screen that we have the left and the right side marked with an L and a right, or an R for right. Below the axial view, we have the coronal view of the patient. This is one thin slice, and we are looking anterior to posterior, and again we see the right side marked and the left side marked to the patient. The third view, which is the sagittal view or the lateral view, this is a thin slice looking from the patient's right to the left, and we can see that we have the screen marked as P for posterior, A for anterior. Now let's take a look at the basic imaging process tools for 2D reconstructions. In the View Control window, we have several options for viewing the images. In the Layout section, we can change how images are shown in the rendering window. So in the rendering window that we have displayed as the default, which is showing the axial view, the sagittal view, and the coronal view all the same size, we can change that to where we can display one of those images in a larger format. We can click Change Layout. We can click either one of these windows, which is the entire screen would be filled with either the axial view or the coronal view or the sagittal view. We have a custom view as well, and I'll talk to you about that in a little while. For right now, let's go ahead and say that we want to see the axial in a larger format because we're going to be dealing with the slices within the region. Let's go ahead and click Axial, and then we have our other sections which are displayed smaller, and then we have a larger axial view. But for our purposes today, let's go ahead and click on Change Layout, and we're going back to equal size. We can adjust the brightness and the contrast on the rendering window as well. Under brightness and under contrast, we have a little slider control. Left mouse click on that toggle, hold your left mouse button down, and then drag to the right or left, and that will change the brightness, or we can change the contrast. If we would like to not take our eyes from the screen and still change the brightness and contrast, what we can do is place our pointer on the toggle, click down on our mouse wheel, and then move our wheel forward and back, and that will change the brightness and contrast and allow us to direct our eyes to a different area. Also useful is the Image Sharpening tool. If we click on the down arrow next to the open window that says Hard, we can see that we have 5 different filters that can be used. I find that most that I have worked with prefer the hard filter. They believe that it gives them a better view, and I agree, of the anatomy that they're wanting to look at. It sharpens the cortical edges just a little bit, and I think the viewing is a little bit better. But you have that choice between the 5 different filters here. Next, let's take a look at the basic image navigation tools that you will use as you work with the images. The first image navigation tool that I'd like to talk to you about is a tool that can be used to enlarge the image that we're looking at. So let's say that we wanted to see the axial view a little more close up, a little more magnified. By holding down the control button on the keyboard, the left mouse button, holding that down, and pushing our mouse forward, we can see that the image will enlarge. The second tool that we can use if we want to go to an area of the anatomy that may have fallen outside of the window as we've enlarged it is our pan tool. We can access that by holding down the shift key on the keyboard, left mouse click, hold that down, and then move our mouse to the area that would display the anatomy we'd like to see. Now, when we've enlarged the view and we've panned that view to a different area, then to get back would require a couple of keystrokes, the control button again and the shift button. But we have a nice tool on our toolbar. It's in the shape of a house, and if we hover over the icon as well as any of these other icons in the toolbar, then it would give us a descriptive text definition of what that button represents. But on the house, which is the reset view, let's just left mouse click that, and that would bring our image back to the default level. The third tool is a double click tool, which would enlarge one of the orthogonal views to a single screen. So let's say if I double click the axial view, our axial view now shows up in the screen by itself, and that's kind of nice, so it doesn't take our distraction away from the area that we're looking at. To get back, we can either click Escape on our keyboard, or we can left mouse double click to get back to the default view of the section tab. Now let's learn how to navigate through the data, and there are 3 ways to do this. One is move your mouse pointer to the desired plane and use your scroll wheel to move through the slices. As we review the slices in these planes, it can be compared to, say, looking at a single slice of bread from a loaf. These slices are very thin, in this instance 0.3 millimeters thick, and that was what was decided as the imaging protocol whenever the image was taken or the scan was taken. But by using our scroll wheel, we can move through each one of those slices. We can do that in any of the 3 windows just by moving our mouse pointer to that respective window. Another way that we can move through the slices is to grab our cursor lines. We grab them by placing our left mouse button, or the pointer, right on top of the line that we want to move, and then while holding down the mouse's left button, move the mouse to the desired location. The corresponding image will be updated. So if I move the blue line, which is going anterior, posterior, then we'll be moving the coronal view and going through the slices. If I left mouse click and hold down on the vertical green line in either the axial or the coronal view, then that will move through the slicing on the sagittal view. If I grab the red line in either the sagittal or the coronal view and hold it down, then we can move through the axial view. So this is a quick way to move through the slices on any of the respective screens. And a little finer control, we still have our scroll wheel, but if we want to move very rapidly to an area, we would move the red line first and then use our scroll wheel for a little finer control. We can also select the slicing by grabbing the middle intersection or the intersection of two lines. So let's say that I wanted to look at the condylar head in all three views. The quickest way to get there is to grab the intersection of two lines, left mouse click and hold it down, and then move that to the area that we would like to see in all three planes. We also have an opportunity to rotate or to move the image after the scan has been taken before we do any of our treatment planning. Let's say that the head was tilted maybe to the left of center, left of midline a little bit, and we would like to right that view. You would select on the reorientation tab in the toolbar, left mouse click to make active, and then now we have three circles on each window. Say if we wanted to tilt the patient's head in the coronal view, and this will affect the images or the data in the other two windows as well, whatever we do in one window, but you would left mouse click on the circle, and then we can reorient the data, reorient the tilt of the patient's head. And again, we can do this in any of the three views. Once we're satisfied with the location, just deactivate the reorientation tab by left mouse clicking on it, and now our reorientation is locked into place. What we should consider when reorienting is what anatomical landmarks are to be used to decide when our image is properly centered. Do we look at a level line across the head of the condyle? Do we say look at the orbits of the patient? Do we look at the sinuses? What do we look at whenever we're reorienting? We all know that patients are not symmetric all the time, so we do have to take that into consideration. Now let's go ahead and look at the distance tool. The tools for measurement are on the toolbar, and we have three of them. We have one distance measurement, we have an angle measurement, and we have an area measurement. Let's take a look at the distance measurement first. To activate the measurement tool, just left mouse click on the icon, take your mouse, click where you would like to begin your measurement, left mouse click, let up on your mouse button, and then drag your mouse to where you'd like to finish the measurement and let go by left mouse clicking. To stop the process of measurement, just go ahead and deactivate the distance measurement tool. Now, while the measurement looks like it might be fairly accurate from this point of view, it's very helpful to go ahead and maybe even bring the area into a larger field of view by, let's just say, left mouse clicking this time. Let's use that tool, and we bring it into its own window. And we can see that maybe we would like to move our measurement line to a different location. Let's go ahead and further enlarge this by the control button, hold that down, left mouse button again, and enlarge. And let's say that here on the right hand side of the patient's left hand side, we did not stretch our measurement tool out far enough because we would like to measure the entire distance across the condyle. So left mouse click, drag your line, and we can left mouse click on the other side and move that as well. And let's say that our measurement is on top of our line and it's not real visible there. We can move that by left mouse clicking on the measurement. We can move that to wherever we would like. and then left mouse click outside of our area that we've measured, and we would go ahead and set that measurement. Now if we wanted to delete the measurement, left mouse click on it, make the measurement or the line active, and it'll turn red, and then click delete on your keyboard, and that will remove the measurement. Now if we wanted to make multiple measurements, we would left mouse click on the distance measurement tool, left mouse click to begin again, drag your mouse, left mouse click to end, and let's make some additional measurements. You can see with each measurement that I've drawn, it's changed colors, the corresponding text as well as the line. This will recycle the colors through 4, and then it'll start again and go through the process again of changing the colors as well as the line and the text. And this is nice because if we do multiple line measurements fairly close together, if the measurement is the same color, then it's easy to get maybe that separated from the measurement line. So in this instance, we can be certain that our measurement, our corresponding measurement to our line, is where it needs to be. And then again, just move those measurements to wherever we would like, and then left mouse click on the surface to lock it in. And again, to delete, just left mouse click, the active state it will turn red in the active state, and then you can go ahead and delete it at that time. Let's double click on that image, get back to the default view, and you can see our coronal view, because we've enlarged it, is still needing to be taken back down in size. So just click on our house again, our reset view, and that will bring the image back to the default view. We have an opportunity to customize how our line distance measurement tool functions by going up to File, Preference, and we can change some of our other preferences while we're in here as well. We can change the background setting on our 3D windows. This will not change for our 2D windows, but for our 3D we can change the background. Black is a background that does work very well, and I'd recommend that you leave it there, but there may be a reason to change the background to make some portion of the anatomy to stand out. The measurement or the font size, we can change that. We have a choice between small, medium, and large. The measurement text color, we can change that by left mouse clicking and picking one of the windows that are one of the colors that is available, or we can make our own custom color if we'd like. And then the tag text, you can see tag text I've entered. Default is blank, but I have entered a doctor's name in this window, and then on your screen, in each of the screens, then up at the top right hand corner, it will have the date the scan was done as well as the doctor's name, and then over in the top left hand side, in this case we've anonymized this patient and then re-entered a different name, but it would enter the patient's name and other information there as well. Down below that we have an opportunity to enable multiple distance measurement mode. So when you click on the measurement tool, it will continue to draw lines, distance lines, every time you left mouse click and drag your mouse. We can disengage this or deselect it, and then you would have to click on the measurement line or the measurement tool each time you'd like to draw a measurement. Also too, we can deselect the Cycle 2D measurement mode. Let's go ahead and leave both those active right now. We also have a couple of other measurement tools. As I'd said, we have the angle measurement. Left mouse click that to activate, and then you can left mouse click, draw the first ray, left mouse click for the vertex, and then the other leg of the angle or the other ray, draw your line by dragging your mouse and then left mouse clicking, and it gives us an angle measurement. Our surface measurement tool, and let's go ahead and scroll through the slices a little bit, and we'll just use this of the airway, and I'll double left mouse click on the axial view to enlarge. we'd choose the area measurement, and if we want to do a surface measurement of an area, then just go ahead and make a series of left mouse clicks as we draw our line around the area of interest. And when we get to the end of our measurement, we can right mouse click and it would join the first dot and the left dot. And then we can go ahead and make adjustments by dragging our dots. And then once we're finished, just right mouse click. Well, that joined the dots, the right mouse click, then left mouse click to lock it in, then it gives us our volumetric measurement in millimeters squared. You may have been wondering what this blank window is in the bottom right hand corner. This window is utilized whenever we create a custom section or we'd like to see a 3D volumetric view of the data in this window. Let's first take a look at a custom section. Custom section is defaulted, and then also we have Explorer defaulted, and I'll explain that shortly, but let's first just select line. We'll move our axial view to the mandible, and we'll take a look at a section of the anatomy on the mandible, and let's just look at the patient's left side. So we'll click Create Custom Section. We'll start interior. I'll left mouse click, begin our section cut, and then drag our line through the anatomy to where we would like to end, and left mouse click. In our window, it will give us a representative view that is perpendicular to the line, to the oblique line that we drew in the axial view in this instance. You can draw section lines through any of these three views. To move through this section that we created, you can left mouse click on the line, and you can drag that line, say a little more lingual, a little more buccal, until we get the view that we want. And then you can double click on that image to get it in a larger window by itself. Now, we do not have our oblique line any longer that we can utilize to move through the slices, but we can place our mouse pointer on the window, or it should be already there, and then take our scroll wheel and move it forward and back as we go through those slices. And we're simply making a thin cut through the anatomy, a thin slice, and looking at a perpendicular slice of that line. Let's go ahead and click on delete of that custom section, and let's create another one. Now, let's do it through the condyle this time. So I'd like to look at the view in the axial slicing, so I'll pull that line up to the condyle, and we'll get the condyle just nice and wide, the longest point between the two axes. We'll click Create, then I'll left mouse click where I'd like to begin my section, and then left mouse click to end. We can see on the bottom right hand window that we now have a view looking anterior to posterior, the coronal view of the condyle setting in the fossa. Now, if I want to move that line, just simply grab a hold of it. It's going to stay at the same angle that we had, but we can drag that line and look at the slices of the condyle. Now, we drew our line outside of the patient's right condyle and moved inward. Let's go ahead and reverse that now. Let's delete that section, and let's click Create again, and let's move inside out. We can see now that we're looking posterior to anterior. So depending on which way you draw a line is the way that this slicing will be done. it will mirror it to the opposite side if we change the way that we draw the line. We can also draw the line across. Now we don't have to delete the custom section each time that we do it, because as we create one it will replace the one that we have. But if we want to get that off the screen before we do that, certainly you can click delete. Left mouse click, let's move across the condyle, and this time we see a sagittal view. So depending on which way we draw that line will be the view of the condyle, whether it be looking outside in or inside out. Now let's look at the use of the Explorer as we create a perpendicular slice. And we will first select Explorer, then Create, then left mouse click, draw our cutting line through the anatomy, and left mouse click. And again, we have a view as we did when we created our line segment before. We have a view of looking straight ahead at the condyle setting in the fossa, the coronal view. Now to move our line, we can't grab any of the yellow segments, but we can now grab the middle dot. Left mouse click on that dot and drag it, and that will move that slicing tool through the condyle. We can also grab either end of this line, left mouse click, hold the left mouse button down, and take our mouse and we can go completely 360 degrees around the anatomy of interest. We can also use our Explorer tool. By clicking on the Explorer, that will automatically rotate as it goes around the anatomy. And we have an opportunity that we can adjust the speed of that rotation. Now on the window at the bottom right, we can take our scroll wheel and use our wheel, move it forward and back, and this will move it around the condyle as we sit and take a look at it, or whatever anatomy of choice. Now let's go ahead and look at creating a volumetric set, a 3D view. All we need to do is just click 3D volume, and then we will have our view down in the bottom window. We can adjust the brightness and the contrast till we get the image where we want it. And then you can have the same tool, the double left mouse click, to bring it into its own window. You have the control left mouse function to make it larger, and you have the shift and left mouse to pan on the screen. There's some other tools that can be used to adjust the way the image is viewed, and I will show you that as we get into the volume renderer screen. Now let's go ahead and select Volume Render. This view shows the patient in three-dimensionally reconstructed views and allows you to explore the internal structures and never-seen anatomy of the patient. In addition to the navigation tools that we had available to us in the Section tab, we have additional ones for the 3D images. These are, first, the Quick Zoom. The Quick Zoom, if we go to the toolbar, we can find it represented by a magnifying glass icon. Left mouse click on that, left mouse click on an area of interest that we want to look at a little bit closer, and it's just a quick way to move around. We can click on that magnifying glass and left mouse click on a particular area of interest, and it would serve the same type of function that the pan would serve. So you might like to utilize that tool. Let's go ahead and click on our little house view, go back to the default view, and let's take a look at free rolling. Free rolling is placing your mouse pointer in the rendering window, holding down on the space bar of the keyboard, left mouse button, holding that down, and then moving our mouse. This will change the tilt of the patient. We also have an increment roll, which is holding down the control key on the keyboard, and then using your keyboard arrows, your up, down, right, and left, and we can change the tilt, we can adjust the inclination of the head forward and back. We also have Incremental Rotate, where we don't have to hold down the control button and we can still use our arrows. In this case, it would be the tilt of the patient left to right. We still have the up and down keys that work the same way, the up and down arrows. Our last new tool is the free rotate. You would place your mouse pointer on the rendering window, and while holding down on the left mouse button, you can move the mouse in any direction to achieve the desired rotational position. So if we wanted to take a look at, say, this supernumerary, this bonus fourth molar, we can rotate the head. We can use our control button and left mouse and make it larger, or we can click on our quick zoom and zoom into the area that we would like to take a look at, and then we can further use our tilt. Now, as you move through the volumetric data, to get back to home position starts becoming a little bit problematic. We've resolved that by being able to click on one of these tabs up in the very top of the toolbar, these positional icons. And in this case, let's go ahead and move the data set back to the coronal view as we see in the default. We'll click on this middle icon. You have 5 of them here. Click on the middle icon, the front view, and it will rotate the patient to the front position, and now we can use our home position to get back to the default view. Now, let's make this larger, and let's go ahead and rotate. If I use the house view, the reset view, it will reset the size, but it won't reset the orientation. And we have to use either our left mouse and get it back into the position we'd want, let's say, and then we can use our space bar on our keyboard, hold that down, left mouse button, rotate, and we can also tilt back up. So we can get it back in the position after a little bit of work, but to do this quickly, that's where you'd use the positional icons, and it would get you back in the correct default position. For perfect patient profiles, as we're looking at the data, you have 2 icons, either a left view or a right view, and when you click this, it will give us a perfect sagittal view. We also have a left-right 3/4 view, and that automatically reorients the volume so that the patient is facing 67 degrees left of sagittal. We have a top view or a bottom view. We have a top view. We have a posterior view of the patient. Let's now take a look at the selections that are available in the View Control window, which allows for better visualization of certain anatomic structures, like soft tissue profiles, airway, etc. This is achieved by displaying densities with specific colors or shades. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of these. This is the teeth view that we're looking at. This is the default value, but let's say that we would like to look at, say, soft tissue. We'd like to take a look at the airway, take a look at the sinuses. Soft tissue 1 will filter out the harder tissues to allow us to see those areas less dense that are boundaried by air. So we can see the area above the tongue, let's say the airway. We look at the sinuses. So it affords us a very good view of looking at the patient for those areas without having to look through the harder tissue. We also have bone, which is going to take away all soft tissue and just give us a view of the more dense materials. And we can also set custom views if we would like by clicking on Set Custom, and we can change the grayscale or the density values by moving our nodes and then going ahead and saving that file. And I've put an example custom density selection, and by clicking Custom, we see something that is similar to teeth, except that we're looking at a more dense version to that. We've taken out some of the soft tissue. So again, kind of a nice way to maybe view areas that we would like to take a look at by taking some of the softer tissue away. Get back to the reset view or the default view. We'll click on T, and again clicking on the coronal view, and then clicking our reset view. So a few mouse clicks and we get back to default. In our view control window, we also have our brightness and our contrast, and we have opacity, and this is just changing the density values as we look at the volumetric set. And densities, or the brightness and the contrast, while it does change the brightness and the contrast as we did in the 2D, it also is affected by tissue, or it affects the tissue, and then it will remove material as we go down the range. Now let's take a look at the clipping tool. A couple of different ways to remove material, remove anatomy as we would like to view maybe an area of the anatomy that's restricted. One is through the clipping, and then there are a couple other tools in the toolbar for removing anatomy, which is freehand sculpture and the Polygon Sculpture, and we'll talk about those in just a little while. Let's first take a look at the clipping. Select it by clicking in the box next to Enable Clipping, and automatically we'll see a change take place. The default sagittal, and we've removed half of the anatomy. So if we want to view, say, the supernumerary, what we would do is just click on, say, the lateral view or the right view, and then we can get an unrestricted view looking across from the lingual view of the area of interest. If we would like to look at axial clipping, we can click that. Let's go back to the coronal view and the reset view, and we'll get back to the home position. And it would remove from top down material, and we can go ahead and look at the view of the patient. Let's go ahead and enlarge the patient, and we can see what happens as we replace information that has been removed or adding it. We also have coronal clipping. And we can flip our clipping planes as well. So if we click flip, then we have removed from the back side forward, and again another way of viewing the information, and automatically clips out the spine, so for better viewing from the posterior to anterior. This really makes a nice presentation tool as you're talking to the patient as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and deselect the clipping tool, go ahead and select the home position, and then we'll go back to the teeth filter, which I had changed to our custom filter. Now let's take a look at a couple of the sculpting tools at top. Let's first select freehand sculpture, and let's take a look at removing, say, the spine. Let's say that we would like to display the patient from posterior to anterior and looking into the oral cavity. We'll first move the patient to the right side view. Let's go ahead and rotate the patient to where we get a better view of what we would like to remove, and we could make the patient again a little bit larger, the anatomy a little larger, to see a little bit better. Let's select our sculpting tool, left mouse click where you'd like to begin, hold down your left mouse button, and we'll see how steady my hand is. We do not have to join the line. This will be sufficient. So just put our resultant scissors that we have now, as that has replaced our pointer when we select the tool, put the scissors on the area that we would like to remove, and left mouse click. Now we have an unrestricted view of an area that we would like to look at without looking through the spine. Let's go ahead and replace that. And again, how we would do that is either click Edit and Undo, or we can click Control, hold down Control and Z. There are many shortcuts which we will not get into, which will enable you to move through the data much quicker, but that is a more advanced way of looking at the data, so that would come in training sessions that we could have. Let's go ahead and reorient again the patient back to home position. Now let's take a look at the Polygon Sculpture. This is one that if you do not have steady hands, it can give you a little better control by placing a series of dots for the area of interest. And then when you finish, you don't have to join the lines together. You can right mouse click and it would go ahead and put the first dot with the last dot that you've placed on the image. And then put your scissors, in this case, let's put the scissors in the middle of the polygon, left mouse click, and we remove that whole area. Now if we did not want to remove the area, if we wanted to remove everything else, then we can go up and click on our undo and simply click on our polygon tool again. And let's go ahead and draw our polygon. And let's left mouse click outside of that polygon with our scissors. And we can do further sculpting here if we'd like. This is also something that is useful for any scatter. Let's say that there's an x-ray that has been taken and there's a lot of restorative work, or the hard metal implants and subsequent scatter from that. We could remove that scatter through using our sculpture tool and step by step remove that if it's important in a presentation. But that's how you would use this tool. Let's go ahead and go back and replace the anatomy. Click undo. Let's reorient, clicking the front view and our little house to go back to our default view. As I'd promised, we'll go back to our section view tab and go back to our 3D view and take a look at that and see if we can apply some of those tools that we just discovered. So we do have the opportunity to do our free rotate by holding down our left mouse button and rotating the image. We also have the free rolling, which is the space bar and the left mouse button. And we also have the opportunity to clip. Now it works a little bit differently in this view. We would select Enable Clipping. Again, the default is the coronal clipping, and it would cut off half of the image. And we cannot use our scroll wheel as we can on our 3D. And let's go back to the volume renderer, and I don't know if I did discuss that, but in our clipping I can remove materials not only by sliding the mouse cursor, but I can also use my scroll wheel to remove information. So two ways of doing that. Let's go back now to our section view tab. Our scroll wheel doesn't work. We have no slider that we can use. The way that you use the clipping tool on this screen on the section view is by grabbing our lines. So we can grab, in this instance, since we're coronally clipping, grab our vertical line and move through the volume set. Or in the axial view, we can grab our red line and move that. Now we can go full view on our volumetric set, but we do not have a means of moving through the scrolling section, or to be able to scroll through or to cut through the sections. So we'd have to go back to the standard view, the default view, and to use our lines as we would move through our clipping planes. Let's take a look at measurement in 3D real briefly. I want to click on Volume Renderer, And a couple of cautions whenever you're measuring in 3D space is that the line that you're using, you not only have to be careful of, say, the surface structure, but you also have to be cautious of what 3D view that might be in our window. Say in this instance we're looking at the opposing jaw, the opposing mandible, and if we're wanting to do measurements and we're wanting to look at the area across to the other side from patient left to right, then I would click on our measurement tool, click on an area of measurement, and we would click to the other mandible, deselect our distance measurement tool and rotate, and you can see that we've got a line measurement from left to right. So you have to be careful in your measurements because it will attach itself, the line will attach itself to the closest surfaced area, and that could be on the other side. And that would work with the other measurement tools as well. Let's talk about capturing images now. Before capturing images, you may want to remove the cursors in the volume renderer and the volume renderer window informational text. How you do that is at the toolbar we will see an eye, and we can click on that and it would remove the text on the screen. So that might be helpful whenever we're printing out or saving an image to have that removed so it doesn't show. But we may want the patient name on there, we may want the doctor name, so you can remove it. However, we can also move the cursor lines that we saw on the section view tab, and to do this we have a toggle cursor visibility tool in the toolbar, and just left mouse click on that and that would remove our cross lines, and that would offer better viewing. So to save, let's first look at saving imagery to a file. We can click on the View tab, Capture to File, and then let's say that I want to save it to my desktop. I'll click on Desktop, and I will give the file a name. So let's just say fourth molar, and I can choose to save that as either a JPEG file or a bitmap or a PNG file. A JPEG file, as you may know, is a compressed file. It's what is called lossy, but it is a small compression, so it's easier to attach to, say, an email. It doesn't use a lot of space on your computer. Bitmap files are larger files, but they are lossless. There's no loss of data. And again, the loss of data, we're talking about a 2D view, so it's not really distinguishable by the human eye, so I would recommend of those two, probably the JPEG. You also can do PNG, which is kind of the best of JPEG and bitmap, in that there is no loss of data and it is a compressed data set. Anybody that's got a current Windows computer will be able to view the PNG files, but if in doubt, just go ahead and save it as a JPEG. We'll go ahead and click on Save. Now let's go ahead and minimize, and we'll look to our desktop. And when we save the file with all windows open, then it's going to save the whole image area, the whole rendering window. We'll go ahead and just put that in the recycle bin. We won't use that again. We'll go back to our software. Let's say that we just wanted the axial view though. You can double click on the axial view, go back up to View, Capture to File, and let's call this, in this case let's just call it Axial. We'll leave it as a JPEG and click Save. And you can see that we've saved just the axial view, and we can use that by importing it, say, into another software like your practice management software, or you can use this to attach to an email. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll minimize that window. And let's go ahead and look at another way that we can save imagery. We'll click on View, Capture to Gallery. This time it gives us an opportunity, without bringing an image up in its own window, to select exactly what we do want. We can select either the whole view or any of the other views. So let's just select, say, the Sagittal view that we want to save, and we'll click OK. It gives us an opportunity to name the image. We can go ahead and put comments if we would like to, and click OK. In our Gallery View tab, that is a repository for any images that's saved as you're doing treatment planning. So if you want to save multiple images, multiple measurement modes, multiple images that are going to be used surgically, then this is the place that you would put them. And then you can either one by one, you can remove them, or you can crop them if you want to. You can change the image size by drawing or dragging our lines, and we can remove maybe information that we don't want to have shown up in the image. We have the opportunity to export these images, and we can export them to our, say, our desktop. We can also email all images. So if we click Email, then it would open up our email client and attach the image directly to our email before we send it. It's a very convenient way to send imagery to, say, a colleague. However, you would have to have either Microsoft Outlook or Thunderbird Mozilla, which is a email client that's not commonly used, but either one of those would be activated and used. If you have something like Google Mail or Yahoo, this would not work. It would not automatically attach it to your email. Okay, let's go back into the Section View tab and look at the third way that we have available to us in saving images. Now, rather than going directly into the gallery view, we can save the image from the desktop directly into our email. So let's say that we wanted to attach this image to email. Just go ahead and click it under the View tab, and it will do the same thing that we just saw in the gallery. It will open up your email client and attach it. This completes our training video. Let us take a look at a summary of some of the things that we learned. Okay, we've learned how to double left mouse click to enlarge one image window in a 2D mode. And we can use escape or double click to return to the default view. We can zoom in on an image by holding down the Control key and left clicking on your mouse and dragging the mouse. We can pan an image by holding down the Shift key and the left mouse button and dragging the mouse. We can zoom in on an image before making a measurement to more accurately select your start and end points. We can use the mouse scroll wheel to move through the slices or to move through the clipping plane. We can use the image sharpening control to sharpen the 2D images. And the accuracy of measurement in a 3D rendering depends on what is visible at the time of measuring. And we can use 3D renders to access spatial relationships between anatomical structures and for patient communication. If your patient cannot really relate to the thin slices in the section views, it may be helpful to use the volume render's clipping functions. Clipping will show the same structure in a way that may be more relatable to the patient. Topics that will be covered in future Treatment Studio sessions are using the Arts section and implant tabs for implant planning, nerve canal tracing, creating multiple TMJ views, constructing panoramic type images and 2D cephs, how to superimpose two 3D volumes, 3D cephalometric tracing using 3D analysis, 3D soft tissue prediction, the use of hotkeys and navigational shortcuts, and other advanced features of the software. From all of us at ICAT, we would like to thank you for participating and being with us today. We look forward to seeing you in future training sessions.